Hello everyone, this is Brad Wood, and today I'm going to be showing you how to override bits of the web.xml file. So Adobe ColdFusion and Lucee Server both deploy as a WAR, or a Web Application Archive, which is a Java servlet specification, and they have a web.xml file sort of just baked into them. Most people don't really have to think about it. It generally does everything you need. Occasionally, people want to override some of those low-level configurations, or maybe they want to add their own servlets or servlet mappings or filters into the web.xml. You can edit that web.xml file on disk inside the server home for command box, even though I don't necessarily recommend it, because if you forget the server and restart it fresh, all those edits are going to be gone. So we provide a way for you to override parts of the web.xml that comes baked with your CF engine directly through your server.json. So it looks like this. You just specify it under the app object called web.xml override, and you just point to wherever the heck an existing XML file of your design exists that you want to kind of layer on top of the existing one. So you can override all of the following: servlets, servlet mappings, servlet filters, servlet filter mappings, listeners, context params, welcome files, of course, only if you don't have them specified in your server.json, error pages, of course, only if you don't have them specified in your server.json, MIME types, which I actually just added as a feature. It'll release in the next version of command box. Also can now be specified in server.json, and session config. So basically, anything you can put in a web.xml, you can add into yours. What's nice is you don't have to specify the full entire web.xml over again. We'll merge your additions into the existing web.xml. So in this example, you could have a web.xml file that the web app is just kind of the top item. Let's say you wanted to contribute or override an existing servlet mapping. So servlet mappings are based on the servlet name, for example, CFML servlet. So you could say, I want to replace the default URL patterns with these URL patterns, which would map HTML files to the CFML servlet. There's also the ability to specify a web.xml override force flag, and that would wipe out all servlet mappings except for the servlet mappings that you specified, or whatever it is you're overriding. By default, we'll add your settings into the existing settings and just merge them. So there's a bunch of reasons why you might be using these. Many of them would be more advanced usage. So I'm going to demo just one of the most common scenario people come across, which is I want to put ColdFusion code in files other than CFM or CFML files. There's a lot of reasons why it's not necessarily a fantastic idea, in my opinion, but if I run across enough people that have wanted to do it, I will show you how to do it. So in my little test project here, I have created a web.xml file with my overrides, and I'll only show you that first, because then it'll make the next files make sense. So here is my web.xml I'm using as an override. And I'm overriding the servlet mapping for the CFML servlet to have a different list of URL patterns. So I've added star.brad in. So in addition to star.cfc, .cfm, .cfml, any files ending with Brad will now be processed as ColdFusion files or handed off to Lucee Server for processing, right? So easy peasy. And I also have an index.brad file that I've created, which just has some ColdFusion code. This page being served by Lucee blah, and then the current time. So over here in command box, we're going to run server set web.xml, app.web.xml override equals, and this is a relative path to my server.json. So web.xml, which is a folder or a file right here in the current directory. And then I'm also, just for funsies, going to do server set web.welcome files equals index.cfm and index.brad. So I'm going to go ahead and tell command box that index.brad is also a valid welcome file. Okay, so that leaves us with the following configuration. I want to override Lucee's default web.xml with the custom servlet mapping of my own design. And then I also want to make index.brad be a default file because those are being processed by ColdFusion. So we start up our server. If you want to see the nitty-gritty details, you can do a debug or a trace start and the output will show you the fact that it found the override file, and it'll show you what pieces it found inside that web.xml override. There's a whole bunch of debugging that'll show you whether or not it works. I've already tested this, so I know it works, so I'm just going to show you the end result. So it's not quite obvious, but we are hitting our index.brad file. Just to make that obvious, I'll actually type that in explicitly. It loaded by default because I set it up as a welcome file. So this page served by Lucee, this version, here's the current time. So our custom URL mapping have been added into the servlet mapping for the CFML servlet.brad files are now processing ColdFusion, as we can see by this. So that's just one of many things you can override. If another scenario might be if you had a custom servlet mapping that you wanted to have certain paths running some, arbitrary servlet of your design that maybe you have some jar files, in the class path. There's all sorts of stuff you can override. The most common things we try to just have baked into the server.json for you, so you don't have to do any of this crazy XML stuff. But we still want to give you the full power to override any of that underlying things. So that's it. And happy web.xmling, and I'll see you guys next time.